Hi, welcome to the Craft Channel. Today I want to show you how to make some Baprons. They're baby aprons. They're really cute. They're a cross between a bib and an apron because what you can do is, and I'm afraid I don't have a small child here to demonstrate, as you tighten them up, they create a sleeve that holds the apron against your baby so that food doesn't get underneath it. So we've got one for girls, we've got a great one for boys, and I'll show you how simple it is to make them. Now I've made these Baprons with a quilted fabric just so that they're nice and absorbent and they catch any drips, but you can do it with any fabric that you like really. And the great thing about these is because the straps, like the arm straps, run inside loops on the shoulder, your Bapron should grow with your baby, so you don't have to keep making more and more bigger and bigger aprons to fit your child as it grows. There'll be a template to download if you check the description below. And it is quite simply, you need to take 2 pieces of fabric. I mean, these pieces of fabric are, well, I would say 45 by 40 centimetres square, folded in half. I've pinned them together on the fold line, and then I've simply drawn around the template with a soft pencil, and now I'm going to cut around the fabric, leaving about a 5mm seam allowance, you know, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And because I'm cutting through canvas and also cotton lining material, I've got a nice decent pair of dressmaking shears that can manage it. You know, don't use your kitchen scissors. It will hurt your hands, and also you won't get a clean cut and it will just frustrate you. And I'll chop up here. So there you go. Now what I need to do is take all these pins out. I won't put them in my mouth because if I do, I then can't talk to you. Some would say that would be a blessing. And open your 2 fabric pieces out. Dog hair strikes again. So you've got a nice big section here, and you're going to wonder what this weird tail is at the end. All will become clear. We simply pin these pieces together, right sides together. And I'm going to stitch all the way around the outside of them. Like so. And you've got some curves to sew here. Curves really aren't a problem. You know, effectively it's just slightly bent straight line stitching. If you take your time, you manipulate your fabric well under the foot as you're working, you won't have any problems with it whatsoever. But what I do recommend is you pin, and you pin well so that nothing slips. You've only got a 5mm seam allowance on here. If your fabric shifts under the foot and you don't notice it, you'll end up having to start all over again. So we're going to start at this end where you've got this peculiar looking tab at the back. And as you sew a curved seam, the teeth of your sewing machine will drag your fabric through. You can use your hand as a pivot, simply to get a nice smooth curve, like so, and then we're onto a virtually straight edge here. Stop at a corner with your needle in the fabric so that when you lift the foot, that acts as a pivot, and then carry on around this curve. And then you've got a nice relatively straight edge. And again, stop at the corner, pivot. No, I've gone too far now. If you find that you have gone too far, it's just lift your needle, put your fabric back under where it should be. It's a lot easier actually if your sewing machine. Oh, it didn't like that at all. Oh yes, it did. Just get that little clump of thread off the back there. That's my fault entirely for moving it and when I shouldn't have done. And I just got an excess of thread build up under the bobbin. If you hear your bobbin make that sort of clunky noise, it is best to just stop and check. Don't carry on sewing. Take your time around this neck curve. My problem is trying to judge how many stitches I've got to go before I reach that 5mm seam allowance again. But with something like an apron like this, it's not imperative that you stick to a rigid 5mm seam allowance. It's not as if it's a fitted wedding dress. Your child isn't going to criticise your stitching. Well, hopefully your child's not going to criticise your stitching. Yes, look, still can't work out where the 5mm mark is, but never mind. There we go. And then you're on the home straight. And finish it off there. Right, important places to clip will be this internal curve here around the neckline. And you don't need to go all the way up around the neck. I would also just suggest you make a couple of clips in here. And this is simply so that when you turn your whole thing inside out, it doesn't pucker up on the curves. You get a nice flat seam. And then also just trim off the excess fabric at the corners, preferably without cutting through your stitching at the same time. Like so. And this is why you've got the gap in the bottom, so that you can turn your apron the right way around. And then somewhere, I keep banging on about my point turner. I'm pretty sure I haven't got it with me. So use the tip of your closed scissors just to push out those points. Like so. Oh, that's a lousy bit of stitching there. This is where I have trimmed the corner off too close to the stitching, and you can see it's just gone through there. It won't actually show on the finished article, but if you find that you've done exactly the same thing, your best bet is simply turn out that part the wrong side out again. And restitch that seam. Mainly because if you've spent money on good material and you've spent time making something like this, it's a real shame to spoil the whole look of it just with one stupid seam. And it takes seconds to fix it. But once you've closed up the gap and top stitched it, you can never get back in there again to do it. So, make sure all your curves are pressed out. And at this stage, as most of the time when you've made something like this, you'd be better off just pressing everything flat. And then you just turn in, and this is why you've got that strange tab, because I sometimes find that when you turn in the edge of something, it won't, you know, it's really difficult to see where the line is. At least with that nice excess bit of fabric, you've got no problem whatsoever seeing, you know, tucking the raw edges in. And in an ideal world, if we had more time, you would simply top stitch. Oh look, there's corners I forgot to turn out here. Yeah, don't forget these ones. These are actually quite important. Because these are the corners where you will attach your tapes or ribbons. Like so. So there you've got that finished design here. Now the reason you've got these peculiar looking little tip-in bits is so that when you fold that over, like so, they fit perfectly against the existing strap, and you can just top stitch oh, there's a thickness of fabric that's trying to get through there. To make a loop. Do the same on the other side. Just fold it on that tip so that it lines up perfectly with the remainder of the strap. And then grab yourself a length of ribbon. Yeah, you probably don't actually need it that long. But you know what, let's cut it in half anyway, because better that you've got more length on the ribbon than too little. So pin your tapes to the wrong side of those little corners. And if you just hand sew them in place, or actually if you pin them before you top stitch all around the edge, and that will secure it in place as you do so. But because it's going to take quite a while to top stitch around here, I'm not going to bother doing it. I'm just going to hold them with pins, and then you simply slip those straps through the loops in the top of your apron. And then as you pop it on your baby and tighten the straps up, it will pull the shoulders back slightly and the apron in, so it keeps it wrapped around your child. So again, the template is free to download. If you just visit our website, instructions are below, and you can make them for girls and boys. Very pretty, very quick, and a godsend, and so much nicer than buying a shop bought one. So I hope you enjoyed that demonstration, and we'll catch up with you next time. If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.